Hi, thanks for watching Viewpoint, Hexagon Safety, Infrastructure, and Geospatial Division's podcast series, and I'm your host, Jack Williams. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of talk about how 5G, AI, IoT sensors, and digital twin capabilities can make city agencies and operations smarter. At the core of the devices and data powering a smart city revolution are the fiber communications network. These high-speed, scalable networks allow for information to be shared securely and efficiently. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Jean-Francois Allard, Director of EMEA Utilities and Communications, as well as Don Lorente, Technical Director for Utilities and Communications in North America at Hexagon Safety, Infrastructure, and Geospatial Division. And we're going to talk today about networks, Hexagon's geospatial asset management solution that allows fiber operators to optimize their fiber optic networks and telecommunication organizations. Jean-Francois, Don, welcome to Viewpoint.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here too.
All right. Well, let's get started. Let's start with an easy one for you two. So depending on what part of the world you're in, I mean, obviously, Jean-Francois, you're in Belgium. Don, you're up in Canada. I'm here in the U.S. There are different government-led and funded fiber and telecoms programs accelerating the development of the network and accelerating those capital investments. Can you talk about the impact of these initiatives and what they have on local government, private businesses, and consumers? How about you, Jean-Francois?
Yeah. So I think that today having a fast network connection is not an option anymore. You know, all commercial activities today rely on a strong, fast, reliable internet connection. All the services expected in a city are digital. You know, when you go to the bank, to the hospital, to the doctor, when you look for the parking availability, when you booked an hotel, a restaurant, when you select a bus for any transportation, when you go to theater, etc., etc. So, you know, even the access to the COVID certificate happens through an app. So, what we see on top of that is that the services and the content offered by the telco operators are exploding. The number of companies offering on-demand television is continuously increasing. And all of these needs require a network bandwidth that the copper cannot offer anymore. So the future cannot be without fiber optics. And also, you know, if you look to the deployment of 5G networks, it's also strongly linked to the deployment of fiber networks. So 5G cannot exist without fiber networks. Besides this, the deployment of fiber optic requires major investments. And this is true, to answer your question, that the public sector is a major actor in this funding.
Well, thanks, Jean-Francois. Good answer. You know, fast network is table stakes in today's environment, network bandwidth, and you know, fiber optics investments requires major investments, and the public sector is definitely a big factor in that. Don, do you have anything to add to what Jean-Francois said?
I agree with JF's comments that the government-led programs are really accelerating the fiber deployment, and they're needed to push that technology out. But it's really around the government's acknowledgement that there's economic prosperity for businesses and for consumers to have this technology available to them. So just like reliable power, a good road network is key to attracting business and attracting residents. A good communications network powered by fiber is required as well. We had a customer that came, their electric customer, and they also deliver fiber to one of our conferences, and they were going to give a little presentation on how their project was going. And it was really interesting that a big portion of the project, like half or a big portion of the presentation, was all about the benefits that they brought to their service territory. So they were measuring the positive impact on the economy and on the quality of life for their customers. So the other thing that we're seeing with all these government programs for pushing out fiber is that they're really creating a new industry. Traditional telecoms, of course, are using those programs to expand their fiber base, but we're also seeing that there's just so much work to do to deliver this to all communities that we're seeing smaller companies come in, or we're seeing smaller municipalities starting up their own company to deploy fiber into their service territory. So it's really bringing in competition into the industry as well.
Thanks, Don. So let's go to another question, guys. So in the context of smart cities and smart city initiatives and smart city programs, give me your take on why fiber optic networks are so critical. Also, maybe chime in on, how does 5G, AI, IoT sensors, digital twin capabilities, how do these things kind of mix in and help make city agencies and departments smarter? And Jean-Francois, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it's maybe what is your view about a smart city? In my opinion, the main goal of a smart city is to be attractive, and that what they want is just to retain and to attract the current population. This is the main goal, and this attraction is based on many factors, but I think the easiness of access to public services, the quality of the public transportation, the security, the health sector, etc. Those sectors are really making the difference when we speak about a smart city. This is what makes the city really attractive. And the access to all the city services happen classically through web portals, but they can only be accessed if the city invests first in its network infrastructure. It's obvious, but this is it. So that's why all the smart city programs start with major infrastructure works, enabling digital network inside the city, but also between the major elements of the city: bus stops, public lighting, smart panels, traffic lights, parkings, all this stuff. And on top of that, smart cities must anticipate the growth of the demand in network bandwidth. As I said through the previous question, copper networks have reached their limits, while fiber networks can grow their capacity just by multiplying the wavelength of the different signals. So it's much more easy than for copper networks. And also the deployment of 5G networks is also imposing very strong fiber networks. Those networks require many radios, mounted on light poles, and all kinds of public infrastructure. So that's a significant amount of additional fiber connections at each location. But collectively, this all adds to the bandwidth requirements of the fiber backbone. So it's only growing, in fact. Though concerning the question about the digital twin, by having such a tool, integrating utility networks, roads, railroads, in combination with sensors, giving in real time alerts, events, and even information based on thresholds, high pressure, low pressure, and so on. A smart city can react faster to alarms, and I think even more, a smart city could anticipate events. I think this is also one of the major benefits of the AI.
Excellent. Thanks for that feedback, Jean-Francois. I'll pivot to you, Dawn. What are your thoughts? I mean, we know that fiber optic network infrastructure is very critical to smart city initiatives, smart city programs. What are some of your thoughts?
Just that it really is a critical technology for the smart city. I actually say it's an enabling technology. Without it, you don't have a smart city. So fiber, as JF mentioned, it's key component of the 5G. So all of those antennas out there need to be backhauled to the central offices with fiber. It's the only technology that can handle all of that data. As well as in a smart city, you've got all of the sensors out there, the IoT devices, this real plethora of real-time data, is kind of useless unless it can be brought back and mined by the different systems or brought to the cloud to be mined. So fiber really is a prerequisite for a smart city. And then just on that, if we take it a little bit further than the smart city to the cloud, I think that the fiber is also a key technology for enabling the cloud. More and more businesses are choosing to run their IT solutions in the cloud. It's not just for backups anymore. They're actually running real-time systems in the cloud. So you need a fast, reliable network, and fiber provides that. On the consumer side, we're seeing home security systems. No longer do you have a PVR in your house. It's all cloud-based, and we just download those shows that we want to see, or the streaming movies from Netflix or Prime that we want to see. We're just being brought to the house real time. Your Ring doorbell, your Nest thermostat are also on the cloud. So again, all of these services require a high bandwidth network, and fiber is the answer for that.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. Fiber, the demands for fiber optic by cities, by network operators, by service providers are heavy. So how do they identify those demands? And then more importantly, how can cities, network operators, service providers, how can they use our product, Hexagon NetWorks, to better design, deploy, and manage that fiber infrastructure to meet those demands? Jean-Francois, you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, so I think the Hexagon NetWorks has been first designed to be a unique repository of all the assets, the single source of truth for all the assets related to a utility or a telecom network. By essence, this is a real digital twin. It keeps track of all the elements inside, but also all of the things surrounding the network. Makes what makes a digital twin, not only what you have inside, but also the relationship with all the elements surrounding it. And Hexagon NetWorks is not only a solution, but it's a suite of software components that will consume or enrich the digital twin in the field or at the office. So it can work connected or disconnected. So this is really, really nice and very powerful. In terms of sizing, the Hexagon networks have been designed to support nationwide networks with millions of distributed nodes. So this is really scalable, and this is also reliable. And I think this is exactly the same as a smart city. So it fits very well.
Yeah, valid point, Jean-Francois. So Don, anything to add to that? What are some of these demands? How can folks use networks to better design, deploy, and manage that fiber infrastructure?
So I think, like, just to further on the digital twin comment from Jean-Francois, it's the networks product really models reality. And then further to that, you need to acknowledge that the fiber networks are expensive to deploy. They're spending billions of dollars to do so. And secondly, the demands of the fiber are going to change over time. So the demands of fiber, 10 years ago are different than the demands of the fiber 5 years ago, and they're going to be different than the demands of the fiber 5 years from now. So these facts mean that the fiber network, once it's put into the ground, is going to change. It's going to evolve. Traditional circuits might start switching directions. You might do rings, as JF mentioned. We could get into multiplexing and multiple circuits on individual fibers. So maximizing the investment through the whole life cycle of the fiber is going to be key. And I think Networks solution allows this cradle to grave management of the fiber and maximize the investment in that the companies are putting into the network and the governments are putting into these programs.
Excellent. So, Hexagon NetWorks gives us that solution for that cradle to grave management of fiber networks at its core. So, thanks for that. And so now, Don, I'm gonna pivot to you. Let you answer this one first, if that's okay. So looking ahead 5 to 10 years, how are fiber networks serving smart cities, smart city projects, initiatives, and programs. What do you anticipate will be the difference between, say today and in the future when it comes to fiber networks serving smart cities and smart city projects? Don?
So, yeah, if I had a crystal ball and pointed it inward and looked at the communication industry, I think there's going to be a move to deem communications networks an essential service. I was joking with my wife that we recently had a power outage, and my kids were perfectly happy to sit in the dark with their candles as long as they had Wi-Fi on their phones. And we were joking. The only UPS we have in the house is on the Wi-Fi router. But teenagers aside, some from the bigger situation, like we just had two major hurricanes in North America, one in Atlantic Canada and the other one hit Florida hard, and then secondly to the Carolinas. And the power companies were kind of given a pass. You kind of know power's it's going to be out for a few days or a few weeks. That's okay. But if my communication device goes down for more than a couple of hours, it's critical. So people can't call 911. The coordination of the restoration can't be done without a communications backbone. So I think that with all of these different weather-related events going on and accelerating, the extreme weather events seem to be accelerating throughout the world, I expect that you're going to see a call for making the fiber communication system, or the communication system which is driven by fiber, basically deemed an essential service, and there'll be a mandate to keep it up and running with backup power supply and with backup circuits, not just having, hey, I've got my cell tower backed up and it can be powered, but there has to be a communications backhaul with redundancy to multiple spots behind it, just in case you lose one or two lines.
Nice. Good crystal ball prediction there, Don. Jean-Francois, do you have anything you'd like to give us looking 5 to 10 years ahead? How do you think fiber will be serving these smart city initiatives? And Don, I can empathize with the children losing Wi-Fi. That would be a total disaster here at my house. So, anyways, JF?
Yeah, no, I think as Don said, it's not really an easy question, but maybe to emphasize what Don was telling, I think as a first prediction, this is true that operation will evolve, because currently we are at the beginning of the story, and all of customers mainly, they are still focusing mainly on the deployment of the network. There's really a race to deploy as much and as fast as possible. So this means that maintenance, optimization of the fiber networks are mainly recent concern. Of course, the climate change will boost some direction, but I still expect a lot of coming from the operations and from the operational aspects. And then second thing I think will change due to the deployment of fiber networks is what I call the autonomous transportation. So I don't speak about individual cars driving alone, but really about public and shared transportation. So I really believe that driving its own car in the city will disappear. We will all share autonomous cars, but not all own. I think this will be a big impact of the digitalization and the deployment of fiber networks. And finally, I think it's obvious, but because we see it all coming, but big data will explode. And what I see today is our customers are collecting more and more data through their own sensors, but all the data they are using today is still using a limited scope. And by the easiness of consuming data with a very broader bandwidth, I'm pretty sure that all the information will be used and will allow to make new kinds of analytics, leading to much better incident prediction, much better city services in general. So this is what I see for the future.
Thanks, and good feedback as well. So as we get ready to wrap up, I want to pose a question to both of you. I'll start with Jean-Francois. Is there anything you'd like to talk about, or any parting thoughts that you'd like to share as we wrap up this vodcast? Jean-Francois?
Yeah, maybe my personal feeling. What I can tell you is that I'm really proud to be part of a story that will change the life of all the people around the world. It's happening today. So I can tell you that the deployment of fiber networks will enable things that are currently only visible in science fiction movies. This is wow. And what I think is that really, and the fiber connection will enable real-time connection to allow remote operations, autonomy in many sectors, completely new way of transportation, and for sure, a new way of communication. So this is really exciting.
Excellent. Dawn, anything you'd like to share? Any parting thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, so I think from a fiber perspective, as we mentioned earlier, fiber allows a whole bunch of that big data to be collected and brought back to a central area for analyzing, and I think that's going to enable the next big technology, which will be AI, to mine that data and follow the trends and the patterns in it. So I think that you're going to see a big push with AI, which will be enabled because of the fiber networks. And then if we take AI as a concept and apply it back to the communications industry, I think you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of advanced modeling, supporting the digital twin, but also building in the resiliency and the redundancy and efficiency into the fiber network. So they'll be using AI programs to do that. So I think that's where we're going from a communications perspective.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm a big, I'm bullish on AI if deployed in that manner. I definitely think that makes a lot of sense when it comes to more efficiency, redundancy, and resiliency when it comes to the network. That's really going to be the core of future smart city operations. So, well, hey guys, I'd like to say a big thank you to Jean-Francois Allard and Don Lorente for joining me today on Viewpoint. I promise I look forward, as we're going to do this again, I look forward to having you back on Viewpoint. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to Viewpoint. For more great stories, videos, and vodcasts, visit hexagon.com. Thank you.